Hello, everybody. My name is Jada Villa, and I'll be teaching you about the principles of chess from the opening to the middle game to the end game, the clear ideas and the objectives behind it all. Um, a little about myself before we start. I am no grandmaster, but I have been playing chess for 3.5 consecutive years, and I am still involved in competitive chess to this day. I know chess has been getting popular since the pandemic started with Queen's Gambit and other YouTubers playing. So why not just make a video explaining the ideas revolving these principles? Just wanted to say before we start, this is like an intermediate level video. So if you're a complete beginner, I suggest you watch my other video. It talks about piece development, how pieces move, the layout of the board, checkmate, stalemate patterns, very basic fundamental ideas. And once you watch that video, come back to this one and everything might make a little bit more sense. That was my disclaimer, so let's begin. When you approach the game with that beginner lens, there's going to be 3 words you're going to hear very often, which are the opening, the middle game, and the end game. It's going to be very important for you guys to understand these terms because they just simply refer to the stages of the chess game. Think of it like a book. You have the start of the book, the beginning, you're introduced to characters, it's very introductory. Then you get to the middle, which is your conflicts, and then the end, which is like the end of things. Now, same thing with chess. The opening is the start of the game, middle, you can assume where that happens, and the end, which is you can also make that assumption. Each stage has its standardized objective or its principles that you're going to need to know in order to win a chess game. Let's start with the opening. Okay, let's speak about it. What is the opening in chess? The opening is the first stage of the game. The player's goal in the opening is to develop their pieces, get their king to safety, and control the center. Okay, developing your pieces means getting them out into the field. In order to be able to make threats, captures, checks, like we discussed all earlier, you gotta get your minor pieces out into the frontier, such as your knights and your bishops. Like, look here, look how great your pieces are because you have your knight attacking the center, you have a bishop out. Now, and when I say minor pieces, I mean minor pieces. Don't bring your queen out too early. It is not good. Look here. Let's say you move your queen here. It is very easy for black to just start attacking your queen while simultaneously developing their own pieces. After, 6 moves, black is better because black has more piece activity. Black has more control over the center. It's just not good to bring your queen out early. Now, okay, let's rewind. Now, when we go back to talking about developing minor pieces, which one first, knights or bishops? And I have the answer for you, my friend. There's a saying in chess where it's knights before bishops, which means you want to get your knights to the center because your knights are able to defend the center better. They defend it more accurately, which is why you wanna develop them first. Now, you want to put your pieces on squares they have the most activity on. That doesn't only go for knights because you could develop your pieces, but if you put them on squares that are inherently useless, then they're very passive and allows your opponent to control the center much easier. Okay, why do we want to control the center so bad? And I know why. Controlling the center allows you to control the game in a sense because it gives space for your pieces, and having better space control, especially in the middle where all this chaos is happening, allows for an easier time to plan an attack on your opponent's king. Now, I want you to realize before you open the center, before you start making attacks, you need to get your king out the middle by, like I said earlier, castling. Now, you look at this example here. Take a look at the enemy pieces. They're all attacking the center. You don't want your king up in that concoction because once the center opens up, like, play a few moves here, now it's inherently dangerous for your king to be in the middle. Castling gets you away from all this chaos and protects your king nice and safe in the corner. Okay, I just taught you opening principles. It's important to understand that chess has over 100 opening sequences. Every one of those openings follows these principles to a certain extent. And before I confuse y'all, opening and chess openings are two different things. Like I said earlier, is the first stage of the game. That is the opening. Chess openings are sequences of book moves that have been played before, deviating into theory. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about theory, opening, stuff like that, because that can be another video. However, I want you to remember it like this. So in the future, you have some background knowledge in this. Theory is simply knowledge in an opening and its variations. And book moves are opening moves that are standardized and recorded from previous played games. I'm going to teach you two really basic chess openings for you to remember once you play, because these openings help you develop a plan for the start of the game. The game starts off with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and bishop c4. This opening follows the fundamental opening chess principles I just taught you, and the point of placing our bishop on c4 is to attack the weak f7 square. Then if you notice, you can castle much quicker than black, get your king to safety. This opening is very positional, and look how easy it is for you to develop your pieces. You could play c3 in this position, and this shifts into what we call the Gucci-Pano, which I'm not going to get into. It's just good, trust me. I suggest this opening for beginners because the plan is very simple for white, and you get your pieces out. Your pieces are out, you castled, you have good center control. The Italian game is probably for you and is pretty beginner friendly. The Vienna game. This starts off with e4, e5, knight c3, and knight f6. This opening is not heavy in theory, which is good, which means you don't gotta memorize. It can just be a bit tactical. And the idea here is you just develop regularly and you can get the bishop out and castle faster. Now, if you're playing chess and you're like, I'm aggressive, I want to fight, all this stuff, then you can play the gambit, which is e4, e5, knight c3, knight f6.
And f4.
Now, if black takes this pawn, then you simply push your e-pawn, and all of a sudden, the knight is trapped and has to go back to the starting square, making black undeveloped. Then make sure you develop your knight to protect this check from the queen. And look how active and nice this position is for white. Then look at black's pieces. They're just stuck in the corner. This is a more aggressive opening. So if you're more of an aggressive player, then the Vienna Gambit may be for you. Between the two, I do really recommend the Italian game as it follows the opening principles and is super simple to learn for beginners to have a stable opening. Now that we've gotten out of the opening, it's time for the middle game. The middle game is the second stage of the game, hence the middle. In the middle game, the players begin to attack each other's pieces, defend their position, and focus on materialistic gains to gain an advantage for the endgame. You want to be up in material. Look at this example here. White is up a minor piece, or considerably 3 points of material. So white is considered to have an advantage because they have an extra piece that can continue to attack or defend other pieces. They just can do more. For white, they want to trade off black's pieces because they have an extra piece they can spare. So after all these pieces get traded off, bing, 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 bang, white has an extra pawn and a knight. White will be winning in this endgame because they're materialistic gain. Another key component of the middle game is defending your position and keeping your king safe. Once you castle your king, you have pieces surrounding him, and you don't want to open up your king's position because that allows for danger to come in. Look over here. The white bishop is attacking the black knight on this square. Let's say we play a pawn move like here. The white bishop can take the black knight, damaging black's pawn structure. A. B. It's a fair trade so white doesn't lose or gain anything. And C. It allows an attack and it allows the white queen to get into the black king side. Now, all of a sudden, black can be considered losing positionally. And it's so much harder to defend. So, instead of allowing this to happen, you want to defend this knight with your other knight to this square. So if the bishop takes your knight, you can simply take back and the pawns are still nice and intact. The queen can't come in. It's just much better. Also, another point of the middle game is you want to be able to develop a plan. Think of the purpose of the placement of your pieces. Are you attacking a piece? Are you planning a pin to a piece? You cannot rely on memorization. Start to think about the grand idea or the idea of your threat. What are you threatening? How does this help your road to checkmate? That is the middle game. Those are the main principles. Think of a plan, defend your king, and get some materialistic gain. Now it's time for the last stage of our game of chess, the end game. The end game is when most of the pieces are off the board. The plan of attack is to promote your own pawns while simultaneously removing your opponent's pawns, then finally getting checkmate. Now, a big principle of the endgame is activating your king. In the opening and middle game, we kept our king safe in the corner while all the other pieces did the hard work. Now, in the end game, those pieces are gone, so you're going to have to use your king to help the pawns get to the end of the board. Here, look at this example here. The black king is in the center of the board, supporting his own pawns, whereas the white king is still in the corner. Players kind of forget that the king can be useful. It's just most useful in the end game because there's not much pieces left on the board, so there's not enough stuff to checkmate the king until the pawns promote and then new pieces come back. It's less of a chance for your king to get mated out in the open because there's no pieces. So get that thought in your head. Now, speaking about those pawns, you need to push your pawns in the end game, especially your passed pawns. Passed pawns are pawns that are isolated on one side of the board without another pawn to blockade them. So, here, because it's so easy to push them at the end of the board in positions like this, you see that A pawn? You could just push to promote. There's nothing stopping it. But if you look all the way over there, these pawns block each other off. The kings would have to run all the way over there to, capture them. It's just a lot of effort, a lot of moves comparing to your passed pawn, which you can just push and defend. Now, having pawns in this endgame, really, really important. You need pawns in the endgame, and usually pawns are the last thing that is left. Look carefully at this position and tell me who's winning, white or black. I'm going to give you 2 seconds. 1, 2. It's going to be white. You want to know why? Because white has 6 pawns compared to black's 3 pawns. It's clear that white has an advantage because they have a higher material count, and the black king cannot stop these 2 passers right there. White can push these pawns, make a queen, and then white just completely dominate, checkmate, boom. Now, lastly, the most important part of the end game is that you have to understand how to check. You want to put the king in check, and you want to remove all the king's escape squares. And there's so many different variations of mate. You don't only need a queen, you only need a rook. You got the king and queen mate, you got the ladder mate, you have different mates that you can do. You want to promote your pawns, and this is how you get checkmate, and that is the end of the game. Okay, I just went on the most giant rant about how to play chess. But why should you play chess? One of the top benefits of chess that everybody should know is the improvement of your cognitive skills, such as concentration, pattern recognition, and there's so much more you could look in the screen. However, I wanted to go in a little bit more detail about the other benefits. Memory capacity. Okay, so what is that? Memory capacity refers to how much information your brain can store in your head. And if we're being honest, majority of people's memories are absolutely horrible. You'll put your phone down, and in 2 seconds, you'll forget where it is and start scrambling. Now, if we want to solve that memory issue, play chess. Here's a good example. There's a recent study by the Cognitive Science Research Initiative that analyzed the effects of 2-year chess training on the working memory of children. To explain this experiment in simplest terms, 77 children received chess training for 2 consecutive years, whereas 80 children did not. And do you want to guess the results? The working memory index of children who underwent that chess training increased by 11 points over 2 years, with greater gains in the first year. Which means if you start playing now, you can significantly improve your memory. Maybe you'll even remember where you put your phone down. You know when you're just mindlessly scrolling on TikTok, or when you watch a video and you have to read the comment section while the ad plays? Yeah, that's a short attention span. We live in a time period where we have unlimited access to technology, and that causes addiction. And it's very obvious that people lose focus really easily. Playing chess improves your concentration as time is needed to visualize and calculate your opponent's moves, especially when there's a clock playing. Chess is a game that requires linear activity. Having full focus is important. Over time, a chess player's attention span increases. Helen Boredom Avmov and Toulouse Piron focus attention tests were used in a study with chess, where once again, this study analyzes how the study of chess improves the attention span in primary school children. And once again, it's the children. There were 30 primary school children who participated in chess courses. Half of these children studied chess once a week for half a year. The other half had a year or two already studying chess and continued studying once a week. Majority of the primary children who took the chess course without prior experience had a significant boost in their attention span. And the children who took chess courses with prior experience also had a boost, but not as significant as the ones learning chess for the first time. Focus is very important in chess because, well, when you're sitting at a chessboard for an hour and a half at a tournament, your concentration tends to weaken. Focus is not only important in chess, but also in real life. And it is a skill many people have forgotten. This is all the topics I will be covering today. I hope you found this video pretty insightful. Before I end it off, if you want, the last minute of this video will be a mini quiz to see if you remembered anything I said in the past. God, who knows how long, like 20 minutes. I have a Google form also linked below asking about the quality of the video, if you learned anything. And if you can do that, that will be amazing. Thank you for watching my video, and here is your mini quiz.
Think I found somebody else, but I see you in his eyes, and I try